Deadly sentencing earns its place on this list not because it overwhelms opponents with raw power, but because it attacks something most sorcerers are completely unprepared to defend: decision-making under absolute pressure. When this domain activates, the battlefield disappears entirely. There's no terrain to exploit, no distance to manage, no opening blitz to attempt. Instead, both the user and the target are placed inside a compact courtroom, standing across from each other as prosecutor and defendant. Violence is suppressed instantly. Even if the opponent tries to strike first, their body is forcibly reset to its position. The domain does not allow brute force to bypass its rules. The guaranteed effect of deadly sentencing isn't physical damage, it's compulsory participation. Everyone inside must submit to the trial. At the center of this domain is judgment, a shikigami that functions as judge, jury, and executioner. The moment the domain stabilizes, judgment announces a charge based on real actions the defendant has committed. These aren't random accusations. They're grounded in actual events from the target's life, whether minor offenses or mass atrocities. Once the accusation is read, the defendant is given exactly one chance to respond. They can confess, deny, or remain silent. Denial does not require honesty. Lying is allowed, but the burden is entirely on the defendant to convince judgment that doubt exists. After the defense, Higuruma is given a single rebuttal, supported by evidence judgment provides only after the defendant has already spoken. This structure is what makes the domain so dangerous. The defendant never knows what evidence exists while building their defense, and the evidence doesn't have to be airtight. Judgment only needs enough to justify a verdict. If the verdict is guilty, the punishment is immediate once the domain ends. The lightest sentence is confiscation, which temporarily removes the target's cursed technique. If they don't possess an innate technique, their cursed energy itself is sealed. For most sorcerers, this is effectively a death sentence in a follow-up fight. The most extreme punishment is confiscation plus death penalty. When this occurs, Higuruma's gavel transforms into the executioner's sword, a weapon that kills instantly with even the slightest cut. Durability, regeneration, cursed energy output, none of it matters. One touch is enough to erase the sentenced soul. What makes deadly sentencing especially lethal is how little combat skill matters once the trial begins. Sorcerers train to fight, react, and improvise physically. Very few are prepared to carefully choose words under stress, anticipate legal logic, or avoid self-incrimination when their life is on the line. However, the domain isn't flawless. Higuruma doesn't control judgment's verdicts. Minor charges can result in relatively weak sentences. Confiscation also prioritizes cursed tools before techniques, which can completely derail a strategy if overlooked. And if the sentence doesn't neutralize the opponent, Higuruma himself is bound by the same no-violence rule during the trial. Even so, deadly sentencing remains terrifying because it bypasses power scaling entirely. Against anyone who isn't mentally disciplined and legally precise, one mistake is all it takes to lose everything. Time Cell Moon Palace is deadly for one simple reason. It turns your own body into the weapon that kills you. To understand why this domain is so lethal, you need to understand projection sorcery. The technique divides 1 second into 24 frames. The user predetermines a sequence of movements that execute instantly within that second. Anything the user touches must obey the same frame sequence. Failure to comply causes the target to freeze for an entire second, a fatal opening in high-level combat. Outside a domain, projection sorcery is already oppressive. Inside Time Cell Moon Palace, it becomes horrifying. When the domain activates, the environment collapses into a black void pierced by a grotesque organic pathway leading toward a massive, watchful eye. The visuals are unsettling, but the true danger lies in the guaranteed effect. Instead of applying the frame rule to external movement, the domain forces the rule directly onto the cells of the target's body. Every cell must obey the 24-frame sequence. The moment a trapped opponent moves naturally, even slightly, they violate the rule at a microscopic level. That violation manifests as countless internal cuts tearing through muscle, skin, and bone simultaneously. Movement doesn't just hurt, it destroys. This is why the domain is so effective. There's no instinctive way to respond. Humans cannot consciously process motion at that speed, let alone regulate it at a cellular level. Victims don't lose because they're slower or weaker. They lose because their biology is incompatible with the rules. In practice, this immobilizes targets almost instantly. Attempts to attack result in catastrophic self-injury. Attempts to flee are even worse. The domain punishes existence itself. The only reason anyone survives this domain in the story is because of a very specific exception. The technique relies on cursed energy interaction. A target with no cursed energy cannot be forced to obey the frame rule. Without that interaction, the domain's guaranteed effect fails entirely. That limitation is significant, but against nearly every sorcerer and curse, Time Cell Moon Palace is functionally a death trap. Even understanding the rules doesn't guarantee survival. Knowing you shouldn't move doesn't stop panic, instinct, or reflex. The domain's weaknesses come from the technique itself. The user still must obey projection sorcery's limitations. Predetermined movement paths, physical constraints, and the risk of self-freezing still apply. A miscalculation can be fatal even to the caster. Despite those flaws, Time Cell Moon Palace remains one of the most technically lethal domains ever shown, a space where survival depends on violating your own instincts. Self-embodiment of perfection is terrifying because it eliminates Mahito's only real limitation, the need to touch you. Mahito's idle transfiguration allows him to reshape souls, and because the body follows the soul, this effectively lets him kill or deform targets instantly. Outside a domain, the danger lies in contact. Avoid the touch and you have a chance. Inside this domain, that chance disappears. When self-embodiment of perfection unfolds, the space collapses into a dark void surrounded by massive clasping hands. From those hands, countless arms extend and intertwine, forming a cage that places the target metaphorically and literally in Mahito's palm. Within this space, Mahito's technique becomes unavoidable. The guaranteed effect ensures that the soul of anyone inside is touched the moment the domain stabilizes. Physical distance no longer matters. Defense no longer matters. Mahito doesn't need to strike. He simply wills the transfiguration. That's what makes this domain so lethal. It doesn't deal damage. It ends existence as you know it. Victims aren't overwhelmed gradually, they're rewritten. Their shape, identity, and physical form are altered beyond recovery. Against anyone without a countermeasure like simple domain or soul-specific protection, survival time is measured in seconds. Even worse, Mahito evolves. He learns to activate the domain in just 0.2 seconds, long enough for the guaranteed effect to occur, but too short for most opponents to respond or deploy counters. This turns the domain into an ambush weapon rather than a prolonged technique. However, the domain carries a dangerous flaw. Mahito touches all souls inside, including ones he doesn't want to. When Sukuna is present, this becomes suicidal. Forced contact with Sukuna's soul results in immediate retaliation and catastrophic damage. Additionally, refined anti-domain techniques can neutralize the guaranteed hit. These counters are rare, but they exist. And against top-tier fighters, Mahito must be careful. Even with those weaknesses, self-embodiment of perfection is one of the most lethal domains ever created. It bypasses durability, ignores stamina, and attacks the very essence of a being. Unlimited Void is not a killing technique in the traditional sense, and that's exactly why it's so dangerous. Instead of harming the body, Unlimited Void overwhelms the mind with infinite information. Every sensation, every concept, every perception floods in at once. The result is immediate cognitive paralysis. Thought stops, movement stops. Awareness collapses under its own weight. Inside this domain, opponents aren't injured, they're disabled. What makes Unlimited Void terrifying is how little exposure it requires. During the Shibuya incident, Gojo activates it for just 0.2 seconds, and that fraction of time forces half a year's worth of information into every mind present. Curses and humans alike are incapacitated instantly. That level of efficiency is unheard of. Unlimited Void also demonstrates extreme refinement. It can clash evenly with the most advanced domain ever shown. It can be resized, reshaped, and precisely controlled. Gojo can exclude targets by touch, alter barrier density, and adjust activation timing down to fractions of a second. The domain's lethality comes from inevitability. If you're caught without a counter, the fight is over immediately. You don't get to adapt, you don't get to struggle, you simply stop functioning. However, Unlimited Void does have limitations. It relies on a closed barrier, which can be attacked from the outside by certain domain types. It's also dangerous to use around civilians, forcing Gojo to constantly limit its application. Despite that, Unlimited Void remains one of the most effective incapacitation tools in the series, a domain so overwhelming that survival depends entirely on outside interference. Malevolent Shrine earns the top spot because it breaks the fundamental rules of domain expansion and weaponizes that violation. Unlike traditional domains, Malevolent Shrine does not form a closed barrier. Instead, it manifests openly, creating a massive area where Sukuna's slashing techniques activate continuously. This open structure acts as a binding vow, increasing the lethality and range of the guaranteed effect. Within its radius, everything is targeted. Living beings are cut by cleave, which adapts to cursed energy durability. Inanimate objects are destroyed by dismantle. The slashes are invisible, relentless, and precise. There is no pause, no warning, no escape. The domain's range can extend to nearly 200 meters, turning entire city blocks into execution zones. During Shibuya, this results in catastrophic collateral damage, killing civilians indiscriminately and mutilating allies and enemies alike. What makes Malevolent Shrine uniquely deadly is how difficult it is to stop. Without a barrier, you can't collapse it by attacking its shell. The only way to end it is to injure Sukuna so badly that he physically cannot maintain the technique. Even against the strongest domain user in history, Malevolent Shrine holds its own. It clashes evenly with Unlimited Void, adapts through binding vows, and continues functioning under extreme damage. Its flexibility allows Sukuna to alter conditions mid-fight, sacrificing certain advantages to amplify others. The weaknesses are real. Maintaining the domain drains enormous energy. Brain damage can temporarily lock Sukuna out of using it. Expanding it repeatedly carries risk. But no other domain combines this level of range, lethality, inevitability, and structural resilience. Malevolent Shrine doesn't trap you. It erases everything unlucky enough to exist nearby. Thanks for watching, and subscribe for more videos.